All right, the immortal John Hancock here, and I am honored to have my good buddy Jay from Square Pegs.
Hi, John. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
I am so honored to have you on, and we started kind of a duo, brothers from another mother, super retro brothers,
That's right.
and just an ongoing series of game discussions. We both love games. You know, Jay was in the industry, I do believe. You worked for EA.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, and has a rich history, and definitely I'm we really just kind of hit it off, meeting him in person and talking through John Riggs. We became friends.
Yep.
And really appreciate just any collaboration to do with him. Definitely check out his channel, and the link will be below where you can. And I definitely recommend him and some other gaming channels on my page. And so yeah, and so we're going to jump right in, and we have just a wide variety of gaming topics, things that probably you are talking to your friends about, at least some of these. And if not, in the comments below, give us your thoughts about these discussions. And so if you like them or other things you want us to talk about. So I'm going to bring up the first topic, which is going to be hot this next week, and that's PSVR 2, worth the price. And so we'll go ahead and start with Jay.
So for me, no, not even a little bit. I'm not a VR gamer. I get really, really bad headaches when I have a pair of goggles on. It doesn't matter what it is, if it's the original VR or an Oculus. I can't do it for more than about 10 minutes and then I'm done. So I don't really see the point of paying that price for just some misery. You know what I mean? Like it's like I don't really think that's necessary. Now, I'm not dogging the idea for somebody else. Like I think if someone else is into it, then by all means, because I love seeing all the incredible games that are coming out. It's just for me personally, not something I can justify the price on.
Yeah, so I did get one for the channel. I purchased it. It was my main Christmas gift. Um, I'm having a real hard time with that price, and there was a bundle I didn't even know about. It would have been nice to know about it through Sony, because Sony offered a pre-order of the PSVR 2, and I don't know if it was available, but there's the new VR Horizon bundle with a charging station, and if I would have known about that bundle, I would have got it.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
and instead, I spent near $600, and I'm getting just a VR headset, no game. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that they're offering a $600 headset that requires the PlayStation 5, and there's no game with a base offering. Like, I mean, I don't know. I ended up getting a charging station from Amazon. I'm going to get a few games. I have a couple older games with a $10 upgrade that are compatible. But that price is ridiculous.
It
And
is.
I'm gonna be exploring it. I paid for all the games that I'm getting, and purchased the headset. Um, but yeah, that is way too high. And looking at the attach rate of PSVR 1 wasn't that great. It's like, do they expect more people to get this?
I can't wrap my head around it. Like I really can't. Like when I look at the fact that it's wired, right? Like you have to be wired into it.
One wire, one cable. I hear it's a lot better than Oculus Quest 2, but it's also a lot more expensive.
Oh, it's twice as much money, right?
Yeah, and half the games that are being offered on it aren't exclusive.
Yeah, I can't wrap my head around the price point on it. And again, if someone's down for it, if they're big VR gamers and they're
Yeah.
willing to spend the money on it, then by all means have fun with it. Just for I look at it and I'm like, well, I can just buy an Oculus for half the price and then have $300 left over to buy games with.
Yeah.
And anything I already owned that I have on Steam that works on VR is going to work and I don't have to worry about it.
I'm
So,
looking forward to seeing the technology jump, but if just
sure.
looking at that price, and I'm not a big fan of $60 digital games. That's a whole other conversation, but
Yeah.
some of the games are like way less than that, and I'm going to pick a few up. But yeah, the new Horizon VR game, I'll probably pick that up. But yeah, that price is a killer, and I think it's going to deter a lot of people from getting it,
I
because
agree.
I mean, it's like more expensive than a PS5.
Yeah, and I mean I don't even like I was so excited when I got my PS5 and I hardly play that.
Yeah.
Like I can't. I just have such a hard time getting excited about that console. There's just not enough that's like outside of Ratchet and Clank and Miles Morales. I don't know. I can't get excited about the PS5. I don't know why.
There's good games on there, but I think for my type of gaming, time wise, I can't sink into like a huge AAA title game and do other things. I've been definitely playing some other things, which we'll both talk about what we've been
Yep.
playing later. But next up, yeah. So pretty much we're in agreement. Too expensive. I'm going to show it on my channel, so definitely look forward to that. And I'm going to show some games on it and give you my thoughts. But definitely that price is a killer.
And
All right.
I think
Oh,
I'm willing to speak for both of us here. So forgive me if I'm wrong here, John. I think we're both of the opinion. We hope we're wrong.
yeah.
We hope it's huge. We hope it's a massive success and that it just like leaps the industry forward. But oh, I just can't see it happening at that price.
Yeah. I mean, from what I've seen so far, and that's just going off video, it looks better than Oculus Quest 2, and it looks like a more like higher end VR headset and can do some great things. And the eye tracking, I guess for like survival horror games, it's going to be awesome. I just picked up Resident Evil Village just for the update, and No Man's Sky. I'm really excited about that. Um, I can separate being excited about seeing the technology, but man, that price point is a reality check, and that's
It
like,
really
holy
is.
cow, it's expensive.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, all right. Next up, we got Switch Turn 6. What is left in the tank? Gosh, it's at 6 years already. It's coming up in March, right?
You
Holy
know,
cow.
it's so fun. Yeah, March 3rd was the original launch day back in 2017, and I remember going to GameStop at midnight. Like I think this is the last time I did a midnight launch. Just because I'm too old to do that now. I can't do it. And I remember going and getting home with my Switch and just being so excited to play Breath of the Wild. And just that feeling was incredible because it was such a unique console, and it still is such a unique console. Even with things like the Steam Deck and stuff like that, like kind of inching in on that territory. I still think that the Switch does a lot incredibly well. And of course, I mean, you can't beat first party Nintendo titles. It's
Correct.
almost impossible to get past.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many amazing titles that come out on it. It definitely was. I was apprehensive of the Switch when it came out, and definitely, like many others, was like, yeah, it's really kind of a unique concept. Can it bounce back from the Wii U? And it did. And I would say many Nintendo uh, people that grew up with Nintendo embraced it. I even have a good friend who's a skeptic of Nintendo and really wasn't a big fan of Nintendo for the last couple consoles. He was a big 3DS fan and absolutely loves the Switch. It's grown on me quite a bit. I think that it's done a good job at really embracing indie titles as well as offering, Nintendo, dropping, Metroid Prime remastered. Holy cow, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, really enjoying that, but definitely I'm still playing a lot of indie titles on it. Between that and Steam Deck, that's really the two platforms I've been playing on and appreciating more. So for sure, I'm definitely. I think they have some left in the tank. I think a lot of people are going to scrutinize: is Tears of the Kingdom going to be able to run on it properly?
And that's the big question, right? Because I mean, you look at something like Age of Calamity, the Hyrule Warriors game that came out last year. It runs terribly. It's choppy. It does not play great. And there's even some instances of less graphically intensive first party Nintendo games that are clearly pushing the console to its limits.
New
That
Pokemon games.
yeah, the new Pokemon games, exactly. That
Yeah,
they run choppy. There's bad frame rate in the backgrounds,
yeah.
or things just draw in really slowly. I mean, even Kirby did that, and Kirby was spectacular. But I have a legitimate concern that it's not going to be powerful enough to run Tears of the Kingdom to the level that we hope it could run at. But at the same time, I've also doubted Nintendo on a lot of stuff in the past.
Yeah.
I never thought that the DS would work. I thought that was the dumbest idea I'd ever heard of. I was like, why do we need two screens? The 3DS is my favorite console ever. like
Well, the
flat
DS
out.
became awesome, but
It
that
did.
DS Fat was garbage.
Yes, it was.
The
Yes, it
DS
was.
Fat was 2 Game Boy Advances sandwiched together with a terrible looking screen
Yep.
and a hinge that broke. But guess what? They realized it pretty fast, and the DS Lite came out, and I fell in love with that design.
The DS Lite is brilliant, if for no other reason than just the Game Boy Advance slot, being able to play those games on that gorgeous, gorgeous screen that the DS Lite had.
It was
Um,
sleek.
it
I I,
was.
I mean, I literally wore one out. I so many good great memories of amazing games, and it had its fill of garbage, but it's still the cream of the crop on the DS is fantastic.
Yep. And I think we're at the point where with the Switch, it's time to start questioning when the next one is going to come out, because I think we're probably within about 9 months of getting an announcement at the very least,
Yeah.
or at least concrete hints of it coming out, and not all this Switch Pro that we've heard for years now about how, oh, the new Switch is coming out. It's just a new screen or it's a better battery or something like that. I mean, like a legitimate upgrade, a legitimate change in the ecosystem to improve the console. And I think we're probably about 9 months away from that, but I still think we're probably 2 years away from it actually launching.
Yeah, I think well the Switch Pro that we're gonna get is gonna be the Switch 2.
I agree. I completely
And
agree.
they're just gonna call it the Switch 2 or whatever, and it's gonna be probably backwards compatible because I would tick off a bunch of people if it wasn't.
Yep.
And then they'll make it, 4K or whatever, all the specs that people want. Because you really the Steam Deck is really what I think people want in the next Switch.
I
You look at
agree.
the Steam Deck and all the uh, little bells and whistles it has. I think people want that, and I see a lot of crossover too, where a lot of people um, really see the benefits of the Steam Deck. Steam Deck has its issues too, but I'll tell you what, I've been playing mine more, and definitely appreciate all the little extras that they've crammed into that great thing. I'm not a big PC gamer, and I really wanted a device where I could play all my PC games. And wow, I've been impressed. It doesn't play everything, but it plays everything I want to play it on. So
I think one of the things that's really important too with the Switch's kind of lifespan being elongated quite a bit is something you touched on, which is that Metroid Prime remaster.
oh
They
yeah,
have such a huge back catalog of games that they can rely on to do that too. Imagine how crazy people would go if we get an F-Zero GX remaster on the Switch.
oh yeah.
People would go nuts. Absolutely insane. And that's before we even start considering the idea of the Switch has a reactive touchscreen. They could easily emulate DS and 3DS stuff on it if they wanted to do those
Yep.
for stuff on the Switch Online subscription service. GameCube is the golden goose for the Switch Online subscription service. If they
Oh
ever
yeah.
get around to doing that, I would be surprised if they do it on this Switch. I would not be surprised if that was a launch point for Switch 2.
Yeah, I think they're looking long term, and I
Yeah.
think they're just going to continue to build upon this library. They kind of did this with the Wii
The
store.
Virtual Console.
Yeah, Virtual Console. Thank you. Yeah, the Virtual Console was I think a lot of people wish it was that model again,
Mhm.
but I think they're really trying to build a pretty crazy Netflix of their backlog to
Yeah.
just offer on anything, and I think it's brilliant. Um, I know that people want to have their physical copies of things and be able to play anything, but you also they need to make money. That
Yeah.
Nintendo's in the business to make money. They need to be profitable, and so I think it is a good business model for retro stuff. We'll see what they do with the next system and currently what they're doing.
Oh, their emulators are top notch. Like that's I think the thing that's most impressive to me is the emulators that they have running on the Switch are spectacular. There's been issues here and there, but they've so quickly reacted to problems that people have had, like the stuff where we had the mist not showing in Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. They reacted to that and got a patch out within weeks,
Yeah.
and the games run spectacularly well now. So I'm really excited to see what they do next. And bring me all the Game Boy Advance games. Any Game Boy Advance game you want to toss on there, I'm down to play. I'm so excited to have those on the Switch. They play great handheld. They look fantastic.
Yeah, and I think if anything, if they can get Tears of the Kingdom, if they can get that to run on the Switch, I mean that's going to propel them at least for this year. Because really, Nintendo doesn't carry their system. They have just so much support from everybody else.
Yep.
But they're the cherry on the top. You know, a lot of people get the Switch for the first party Nintendo stuff, and then you get all this other stuff included. And so, you know, for this year, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom, that's the big one, and I think people know that. And if they can make that run better than, you know, the previous Pokemon games,
Yeah.
I think they're good. They're good for the couple years that they need to float, until they, you know, I agree with what you said earlier. I think in 9 months, I think they're going to wait till after Christmas. They typically will do that.
Yep.
Early January, they'll announce for next holiday. So I think we'll get this we'll get the Switch 2 in 2024.
I think that's right. I think they want to get a good 7 years out of the current one. You know, they'll probably keep producing it for another year
Yep.
after the new one comes out, just to have that kind of bridge there for people who are curious. And then, yeah, I think it'll ride off into the sunset. And I don't see how it doesn't become the best selling console of all time at this rate. It's it sells so well all the time. And I know NPD numbers have it down and stuff like that, and that's natural. It's 6 years old. It's gonna happen. But I mean, the attach rate alone on games for the Switch, like Mario Kart's on something like 50% of Switches that have been sold, which is but just absolutely bananas for a game that isn't a pack-in.
Yep. Animal Crossing 2 is
Yep.
Way up there. My son played that for a couple years. I think he's finally kind of done, but you know, he played that all through COVID, like many others.
Yep.
And look forward to seeing that.
So I got a question for you though, John.
All right.
What are you playing right now?
I'm playing a game that I did a review first. I did a first look at Elderland.
Okay.
And I've had some downtime. I don't get a lot of downtime. I've had a little bit of downtime. Really been enjoying that. So it's really hard for me to kind of sit down and kind of focus on a game. But I've decided that's something that I would like to work on more. Which means, you know, of a lot of the content that I cover, going back and revisiting things can be challenging. But I've chosen Elderland for that, and I really think it's a Metroidvania. For people that don't know, it's on Switch and Steam Deck. I'm playing on the Steam Deck, and it's great. It's a perfect, I think, balance. I think most a buddy of mine says a lot of Metroidvania games, indie titles, are about 10 hours. I can do that. So I don't know how long. I don't know how long exactly it is. I'm about a quarter of the way through now. The game, fought a few bosses. I got warp travel unlocked on it, which makes the game a lot more enjoyable. And I'm looking forward to unlocking some other secrets and checking out. I like it though. It's good. Awesome. Really good.
I'm actually playing something I saw on one of Jason's videos a couple months ago. I just did a video where I looked at what are my favorite arcade racing games throughout each console generation.
Huh.
And you know, a lot of them I've played a lot, I spent a lot of time with, but he did a video where he covered Need for Speed The Run.
Oh,
which just looked fascinating to me because I love the Need for Speed series anyway. And the idea is that it's Need for Speed, but it's also the Cannonball Run, the Burt Reynolds movie.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
You're racing from San Francisco to New York. And
okay.
I'm just like, yes, 1000% yes. Give me that engine with those graphics in a cross-country race. That's fantastic. And it's great because there's like these little side missions and stuff where it's not just drive fast, don't, you know, finish in last place, but you have to also avoid the mob who's shooting at you so you don't die when you're driving. It's a great take on the Need for Speed series. And I really wish that there's some cutscenes in it that are really ham-fisted and just really forced in that are not great. And it kind of takes you out of the flow of the game. And that's like the only thing I don't like about it. But for the most part, I think the game is absolutely fantastic. And it's a really fun title that I think a lot of people overlook just because we get so many Need for Speed games on the 360.
Awesome. I've heard good things about it. So, you know, and those are fun games to pick up and play. And those are the type of games that I'm into.
Yeah, they're really fun. I've had a lot of fun with arcade racing games lately. It's just nice to kind of get back into them, just because they're the kind of games that are fun and can be a little bit mindless as opposed to having to invest a lot of time into it. So my next question though is, you know, we've talked about this. We're both collectors. We both know kind of the pitfalls of collecting. And really, it's not just retro that I'm talking about here. It's everything. And it's the question is the video game market flooded right now?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. It's funny. I was on Steam, like many people, all right, what little gem can I find, or $5 or $10 game? And I was looking like last Friday, and there was 20 games just in a particular price range released for one day. 20.
Yeah.
And some of these are all different types of games from around the world. Everything from gambling to puzzle to you know um, lots of different ranging from E to M to adult types of games. But that's too much. I mean, at some point, the market becomes so flooded. I wonder, does then it becomes like a AAA title versus the thousand indie titles that just die on the vine.
Yeah, and the Switch eShop's the same way. I mean, I spend a lot of time in the Switch eShop every day because I do my eShop video every month, and every day it's something where it's like, well, there are 40 games added today.
Dang.
I can't spend the money on these for one. It's just a ridiculous idea to have to spend all that. But I just don't have the time to research every single one of them.
No.
Like it's I look at it and I mean, I love games. I love them,
Yeah.
but I love words too, and I don't read the dictionary for fun. I'm not going to read everything in the eShop for fun. So it's overwhelming at times where it's just like there's 40 new games that came out this week. There's 2,000 games on sale on the eShop. What do you want to buy? I'm like, well, nothing. I'm just going to play what I have, and be happy with it this week because there's just too much otherwise.
Yeah, there's a balance of like, I want to share what new content comes out.
Yep.
And I really love supporting that when I can. And I try to do that on my channel. And then there's also older games that come out on previous, aftermarket games for older consoles, which I love that.
Hmm.
But yeah, at some point it becomes so much. There's so many game options that you can play now. I love it. I think it's a wonderful time to be a gamer. Um, I think it's probably pretty stressful for a game developer of like, what's the next thing, or trying to stand out in a really, really crowded market.
Yeah.
Can be probably pretty challenging.
Yep. I agree.
And so I do think it's flooded. And I feel for the great games that don't get the attention.
And there's a lot of them out there. There's so many fantastic games that just go by the wayside because something else is, there's an 800-pound gorilla there that everyone wants to play, and no one's looking at this little independent title that could be the next great game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for every Vampire Survivor, there's 10 games like it that
yep.
just nobody picked up in abundance. And that's real people behind those games. That's real debt.
Yep.
That's real someone's livelihood that that they had hopes and dreams of paying their bills, and that can be challenging. And
Yep.
those are hard stories to hear, and they happen.
I agree. Now, I think the thing I want to cap this conversation off with today is there's been a lot of talk, a lot of negativity being thrown around lately about a particular store. We don't need to name names on this one just because I don't really want to drag into the negativity, but there's a certain kind of platitude that people put out there about how they want to find something affordable. They want to find something that's well maintained and well taken care of. But it seems like everyone's just kind of going for the easy target here and only looking at online stores and only going for that. And the question, of course, is does it matter where you buy your games from? Is it imperative that you go with this big name online retailer, or does it matter that you only buy your stuff from yard sales and Facebook Marketplace or anything like that? And I think the answer really is no, it doesn't matter at all.
Doesn't matter one bit.
Just understand what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
Like I know we both have our preferences.
Oh
I
yeah.
like to buy stuff from my local used store. I have one here in town. It's where I like to spend my money. And I like to pick stuff up at conventions so I can actually talk to the people that brought the game. I can look at the cartridge, I can examine it, make sure it's something that I actually want to spend money on. But to get upset that a retail store is charging a certain price seems foolhardy, because you paid it. So it obviously couldn't have been too expensive if you're willing to spend the money on it. Now, if you paid the money and you're not getting the product that you paid for, if
Oh
there's
yeah, that's
something wrong,
different.
then that's a conversation for another day. But I just think that you need to go with something that you can trust, and something that you can feel good about your purchase when you're done. Like, I don't think any of us really love buying things on eBay. It's always a gamble what you're going to get, but I tell you what, I've gotten some great deals on eBay.
I've went to eBay for things I can't find anywhere else,
Yep.
or just that uber rare or oddball thing. Um, for me, my spending is way toned down,
Yeah.
just for prices, and just I really don't need to add anything to this curated collection. The next step is to move it to a public area.
Yeah.
And so, going back to, does it matter where you get games from? Yeah, I think if you're happy with a transaction, a business transaction or a trade is between typically two parties, and if
Mhm.
you're both happy, win-win.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter, because some people are really limited on where they can go. Some people just thrift hunt. Some people go to the flea mart. Some people go to their local stores. Some people just don't have any of that anymore, and they go online. That's fine. I prefer conventions. Best bang for the buck, because gas is expensive, and you can go to, especially a decent size convention, you can go to like 50, 60 different stores and individual vendors, and they have games right there, and you can get some great deals. I know conventions isn't an option for everybody, but that's where I like to look and see cool stuff. But yeah, we definitely have a changing market, but really, wherever you find stuff and you're satisfied with the transaction, that's all that matters.
Yeah, and that's the ultimate thing, is you have to be satisfied, and you have to trust the situation that's going on. Like, if you at all feel like, if your spidey sense tingles whatsoever
Yeah.
during a transaction,
Yeah.
back out of it.
Yeah, if it's shady, if you think the item's stolen,
Yep.
or if you think that it's not matching up with their story that they say where they got it from, or whatnot. That's the other thing too. It's typically better to buy from someone, a business owner, or a place where you know exactly where it came from,
Yeah.
just to protect yourself. But yeah, I agree. I think that it doesn't matter exactly where you get it, as long as you're happy with it. Um, and people have lots of opinions about where people get games,
Yep.
and it doesn't matter what other people think.
No, exactly. And
Yeah.
as John and I both said, we both prefer conventions. There's plenty of conventions coming up. Granted, there's not a convention everywhere, but if you do a little bit of digging and you do a little bit of research, there's probably one within driving distance that you'll be able to get to. It's at least one a year. I know for me, I'm lucky where I'm at in the Midwest. I've got 3 shows within 4 hours of me that
Awesome.
I can get to, and I'll be at all 3 this year. So I'm looking forward to that. Um, but yeah, it's just a matter of making sure that the stuff you buy is something you're happy with. The money you spent is something you're happy spending, and you don't feel like you're ripped off. And just enjoy the games. At the end of the day, that's what we're here to do. We're here to enjoy the games that we buy and play the things that we love. So make sure you're doing that, and you can do that with a clear conscience.
Well, Jay, it has been an honor talking to you and doing one of these again. And we plan on doing more. The next one is going to be on your channel.
That's correct.
And so that's great. And so, Jay, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter. You look up Square Pegs. I am the one without Sarah Jessica Parker. I am always talking about modern and retro games. Do a couple videos a week. I'd love to have you stop by.
Well, thank you so much for being on this. And if you like what you see, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for both of us, as we upload content all the time. Thank you so much. This is the Immortal John Hancock, and
Jay from Square Pegs.
you take care.